don't know Desiree, let me tell you, this woman. Desiree Patno? Oh, man. So Desiree is like, she's a legend. I mean, she speaks all over the place. She's been on the United Nations. She owns her own company. She does reports that, fortunately, we'll be able to do a drawing, right, on the women. And she's going to talk a little bit about her organization, what she does, and it's about empowering women. I sit on her council. She has an event that she holds every year that is such an empowerment of, not only is that empowerment, the people she brings in are like people that you're like, wow, she's here? You know, it's amazing. So I just want, and I'll let her talk about it. Because of the fact that we only have an hour, I do want to jump in and I want to ask these women, these talented women, a little bit about themselves, how they got in the industry in real estate. And they are proud to say, I am a realtor, right? They're all proud to say that. Not, I used to do this, right? I'm a realtor. So Tiffany, tell us just a little bit about how you got, because Tiffany is a woman, I want the civil rights, because you're the only one that can say that. Tell a little bit about that, right? Tiffany, get started real quick.
Hi, I don't know if we're on morning or afternoon. We're on afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Tiffany Curry. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I am a realtor. I am the practicing realtor / broker on the group. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Teresa. I actually got into the business on a dare from another student in college. We were in one of our business management courses. We were getting ready to graduate. And she said she was going to get her license, and I said, I'll get mine too. Let's do it together. Wow. So she never did.
Yeah, I don't think you have it on yet.
Are we on?
Yeah, there you go.
There we are, I'm sorry. So I was getting my license on a dare. Another classmate in one of my business courses when we were about to graduate from college was going to get her license, and she said, let's get it. I said, let's do it. She never did, and I did. So I said, well, I'll try this for 6 months before I go into law school, so I'll take a break, right? So that 6 months has turned into 12 and a half years.
That's awesome, right?
And I have totally never looked back. I will say there's one thing, going into law, I wanted to be involved and I wanted to make a difference in my community, and not just within the community, but within our nation. So I felt like going into real estate, I was going to lose some of that. I loved what I was doing, but it wasn't fulfilling the side that I wanted to give back. So over the years, I've continued to go out of my way to do so. And last year, I'm so excited to say I became one of the youngest people ever to be inducted into the National Civil Rights Hall of Fame.
Wow. Unbelievable. Just an honor. Dan, if you don't mind telling us a little bit, this woman's a second generation realtor, right? Family.
I'd like to say I went on my first open house in 1978. I was 8. My mother had just started in the business, but then I spent the next 14 years just insisting I would never go into the business, because that's what my mom did, you know? And I wanted to go to become a doctor, I wanted to go become a journalist, I wanted to go do something else, and I did. I went on and was a pharmaceutical rep. And then one day it hit me that my greatest mentor and role model had found something that she loved and was passionate about. And I remember talking to my mom, and I'd already been an assistant in her office, and I'd been helping, around at osmosis. So one day I said, why am I resisting it? Why don't I just go for it? And so in 1995, I got my license. And then in 2000, my mom was very heavy into residential, and so of course I still wanted to go with my own lane, and I went to commercial. And then I kept coming back to residential because, again, I saw her love for it, and became a broker in 2000. And I don't know what I'll be if I ever grow up, but now this is my 25th year, and it's what I do, and it's what I love, particularly in the leadership role. And I've been with the Atlanta company now and Berkshires Hathaway since 2004, and being surrounded with this type of company and our brand, it makes me proud. I am proud to be the president of we're now 9,000 members in Atlanta, the Atlanta Realtors Association, and that's been a real honor too. So,
wow,
congrats!
Gretchen, tell us, because you got a story, baby. You're it.
Do you have any kids?
Is that exciting?
I think it is the most exciting you own. Look at it, number 13.
Thank you very much. I as well, Dan, I've been in the business. My mom wasn't in it, but I got introduced to the love of money. When I was 21 years old, I saw a bunch of guys who had taken full advantage of redevelopment money and had built Section 8 units and were landlords of 880 units. And my job at age 20 was to basically certify the Section 8 folks. And on the first of the month, literally bags of money came in. And it didn't take me much to say, I need to get some of that. And so I actually joined real estate, or got my real estate license so that I could invest. And I was going to be a part-time mom. And then I would make a few sales to help the family, to have enough extra money to buy a couple investment properties, and we would live happily ever after. And now here we are.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
awesome. Thank you.
And excited. Thank you so much. I see a ton of friends who aren't with me, and a lot of Drysdales as well. I appreciate you guys being here. I don't want to bore you. You've heard my story. You've had to live with our story. But congrats, since I have the mic, congrats to all of us. We were awarded 13 for the convention, and I'm also proud to say that the CAR, which is California Association of Realtors, has also named us or identified us as the largest woman-owned brokerage in the state of California.
Listen to that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Last but not least, Desiree, tell us a little bit about your story.
So I want to ask how many are here from your brokerage, Gretchen?
Drysdale, raise your hand.
That's over 50 to 60%. That speaks volumes. So thank you very much for coming. So I got in the business in 1990. I was doing Fortune 100 relocation because, again, I was a DoD contractor, which meant programming for Department of Defense. And I said, why are those fancy women driving around those fancy cars and jewelry and everything else? I want to be just like them. So I quit and went into real estate. I worked with Fortune 100 companies for many years. Then I went into asset management default. I've sold over 6,000 properties myself. In the last 10 years, I focused my time on running the trade for women in the housing real estate ecosystem to make sure that women have a seat at the table, not only the corporate board, but access to capital, and making sure from poverty to homelessness to home ownership to business owners to C-suite to multifamily REITs and family offices for women's economic growth to women's independence.
That was a mouthful, all right? Beautiful. Well, all of you, one of the things that I know comes with being a woman in the business is there are challenges, right? No matter what they say, there's obstacles that we all have to face. And I know you've all faced them. So tell us, what was one of the biggest obstacles? I mean, you heard Susan, I thought that was the obstacles you faced, climbing that mountain, and then to not be able to make it the first time up, and people telling her, especially that guy, hey, you didn't make it all the way to the top. So tell us, what are some of the obstacles and challenges that y'all have faced in the industry that you can share with our audience, all these wonderful people here, so they can avoid them or they can learn from them?
Well, I'll start. When I started, I told you that I was coming out of college, but I didn't tell you it was during 2007 when the market was crashing, and basically short sales and foreclosures were hitting the market. Well, all of my friends were graduating or had just graduated, so they couldn't buy homes. So all the people that I spent all my time around that I would have sold real estate to couldn't buy anything. A lot of them were actually going back to college. So I had to think fast if I was going to stay in this business. So I started to get involved with the Young Professionals Network, and they actually gave me great skill set and ideas on how to diversify my business. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I came into real estate not knowing anything about real estate, and that's when I decided to learn everything I could learn as far as architectural, style, design, things that people were not doing. And I said, if I'm going to sell a house, then I get 3% regardless. Why not sell larger homes? And so I learned the luxury market, and that was different for me because you didn't have people like me in my market that was doing luxury, and now I do it very well, and people actually seek me out to do it. But the key for me was basic fundamentals on educating myself, differentiating myself, and also investing in myself. So if you go online, anything that you see from me is going to tell you who I am, what I do, and most importantly, it's going to look like the type of business that I want to attract.
I love it. And you'll see that resonates with all of these women on the stage. They're constantly learning. You know, I'm going to share some of the things they sent to me later today about the books they learn, the podcasts they listen to, the women they follow, the men they follow. Anything that's going to make them better, just like Buffett said, right? You heard that. Dean, I know you can pipe in on this one too.
Yeah, first off, pharmaceutical rep, never forget my first review. Manager looked at me and he said, Deanne, you know, I know you're trying hard, but no one's going to take you serious with your southern accent and your lack of confidence in yourself. Shame on me, I quit that job. I let him get into my head. Second attempt, going to commercial, pursue my CCI and get my MBA because I am going to do this. First time I walked into a room in a CCIM meeting, a gentleman looked at me, introduced himself, and said, "Whose assistant are you?" I stood up. I shook his hand. And something hit me, and for the first time ever in my life, I just politely said, "Well, sir, I'm sorry we haven't had the chance to meet because I am going to be looking for an assistant, and maybe I could look at your resume."
Beautiful.
So at 25, that was quite bold, and that, for those that know me, that's not my personality. But Ayn Rand is an amazing author, writes, you know, and says, you know, don't let somebody tell me, you know, what I can do. You know, somebody's going to tell me what I can't do. But my corollary is, if you tell me I can't, I want to show you that I can. Mm-hmm. And that's probably what has driven me more than anything. And then getting supported again, I mentioned earlier in the company. I work with Dan Forsman and Tony McGowan. And, you know, when you can surround yourself with leaders who raise you up, and tell you you can, and they believe in you, and they coach you when you stumble and fumble, and gosh knows I do that a lot. But being able to be embraced by that, and you know, you're known by the company you keep, like Esau Stable, you know, so get in a place where people want to lift you up. And as John Gordon says, rule number 6, get the energy-sucking vampires off your bus.
Absolutely. Right? You've heard it. Yeah.
Can we answer?
Yeah.
I actually am going to turn it a different way and talk about really in the way of what has caused stumbles or struggles. And it's really been my ego in a lot of regard. And I was born the ultimate underdog, right? Red hair, I was a tomboy, I'm female, and that fight that you speak of is ingrained so much. And what I've learned as I've gotten older is sometimes that angst and the frustration that we have, that we generate as people make comments they don't think anything of, or see us in a different way, or make assumptions. And I'm still working on this, but literally there's been many of times where I get so angry about it and want to choose, or not even choose, I would just act on saying something with my mouth, even to the point of pouring hot coffee on a man's crotch. So that hasn't served me.
I'm writing that tip.
Well,
Write that one down, I'll say it again. Probably don't pour the coffee.
Don't do that.
Why did you don't?
And
I just heard.
Same rule, because for many, many years in this business, and even though, you know, California Association of Realtors quotes numbers that 68% of the realtors in California are female, and less than 11% are in leadership, I have spent many a day with me being the only female in a room, in a boardroom, and where they all want to yuck it up, and it's such a informal business that we're in. The context of a corporate meeting is not lots of times in these meetings. And for me, then I sit and simmer, and then I am learning to choose when, where, and how, versus just acting. And where I finally came to this was some folks who just said, look, ultimately, no. Sorry, Steve. We're smarter than the other species. So use your brain and choose when. And don't react because it's not serving you.
And that's so true, right? And Desiree, you've been the only woman too in a lot of situations yourself. So.
I have. Starting from water polo in 1971, I was the only girl that played in the entire league. It is now Olympic sport for women. But back in, I think the biggest thing is that when the RTC, if you look at them 25, 30 years ago, when they started doing the asset management and foreclosure of homes, they didn't have women who worked at the facility to actually do the brokerage of it. My first introduction was that they didn't quite call me an assistant when I walked in there, that I thought I was there for other reasons. So I graciously said, as a former model, no, I'm not. I'm here as a broker of record to serve the properties. So I made a mission that when the foreclosure crisis came around, and I said, listen, we're going to get women at the seat of the table. So I went to all the banks, knocking on every door, and I said, where's your women's department? Oh, the multicultural division is down the side. Here's a African American, Asian, Hispanic. I said, no. I said, women's department support women. Well, yeah, we're kind of doing this thing. 6 years. I knocked on every bank's door and said, what are you doing to support the women? You don't have an inclusionary side. And so when Dodd-Frank came out in 2010, it was our time to put it down. So we've been writing since day one, and I can pick up the phone and call anyone at any time back there, hence the government relationship, hence the Department of Labor, the FHFA rules that regulate the Fannie and Freddie and all the housing. Our language from Mentor B is in there because we make sure that we want to have you at seat of the table, that you're included in inclusion, in addition to your women-owned and small businesses. We're the only trade that sits on the SBA's national platform, and there's only 9 of them in the entire nation as a resource partner for women-owned small businesses. And, and one last thing, corporate, and talk about California, women mandate. Tell every publicly traded company must have women on their corporate boards. SB 826, we were part of the group that got that passed with Betsy Berkshire.
And we have that's like amazing, right? We can do that in every state of the country, right? One of the things too that you mentioned.
I can appreciate that. And one of the things that one of the ladies said to me, she says, well, Tiffany, I don't feel like there's enough diversity there because there have only been a handful of presidents, women presidents of NAR, and it's over 100 years old. How do you attest to that? What is on the rise, on the horizon for that? And I started with her. I looked back at her and I said, well, listen, women outnumber men in NAR. What are we going to do about
That's
that?
right. You hear it?
There we go.
Love it. What are we going to do about it?
This fell off from the bottom.
Deanne, you want to pipe in? Because I think this is important.
Yes, I say there's something that I was just actually, Tiff and I were just in Palm Springs at the President's Circle, and I had the pleasure of hearing Condoleezza Rice speak. And if you've never heard her speak, you need to. Read her, study, amazing. And to just keep kind of brief, but the one thing she stood to me that resonated more than anything is if you're waiting until someone that looks like you or is the same sex or, talks like you, acts like you, to do what you want to do and what you feel you can do, you may still always be waiting. And if you look at her and what she's done, and she said, my goodness, and she'll say it, this African-American woman sitting there wanting to be a nuclear physicist, Soviet expert, love to play basketball. If she had kept waiting,
Should have never done it.
she would have done it. So I think that's the best piece of advice that I can give, is don't wait. Just believe in yourself and go for it. And then find, to your point, people to surround yourself with. Always look, you said it so beautifully, who can replace you? We won't always all be here. Who can replace you? But then also, if you're going to go to the next level or a lateral level, who's going to be there to be the glue in that team and that energy force, that ecosystem you've worked so hard to build? You always want to leave another brick in the mortar.
Love it. Yeah, Gretchen, jump in because I know that's important for you as well.
For me, I said, I think that it's been interesting because I have a male energy in some regards, and a lot of you that know me on that. And so the whole cat thing is, I don't know, I think it must be inbred or something, but I've never really seen or done that. I've had it been done, and I've watched other women, and we just need to stop because why in the world? The world needs us.
Absolutely.
The world needs us, and the world is quite frankly in its position because we have not had, whatever reasons, enough seats, enough inclusionary. Because it's not even, what the answers that we're looking for, it's what are the questions. And each one of us, whether we've got color, we've got male, we've got female, we come from our own individual perspective. And the larger amount of diversity that we get, we're going to go ahead and bring that in. But it's been, shown many, many times that when a group, if there's problem solving, the more homogeneous or more like kind, if there's a problem, the slower and the less, if you were going to rate it, the less of a result. The more diverse you get to the moment of greater achievement. And so we need to, I just want to underscore that piece. Ladies, let's stop. We need each other.
That's
the
right.
world as much as we can, and let's go. Do what we need to do.
And I think it's also, and Gretchen, yeah, let's give her, I mean, fabulous, right? And I think it's really important that we also realize that nobody's going to say to you, hey, you're the next person. It's very rare when you find somebody. You got to step up to the plate and say, I want this. Hey, how many of you gone to your team and said, I want to be team leader. I want to go into leadership. I want to take the training. And if you're told you're not good enough, because it happens, you go and get the training that you need to get better, right? Because that's so critical. And I think it's very important that you also have, you know, and I know we've got some men in the room and I got to recognize them. Please stand up, guys. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're here supporting us, right? And I got to mention one
I love it. I love it.
they believe in us, right? And there is one person I have to recognize, Dan Forsman, because he believed in me many years ago, Dan. This is why I'm here today, Dan Forsman. So he's CEO, and that's where Dan is. And Dan, everywhere I go, people know that you were my driving force. You were the wings, you know, beneath mine. And the air beneath my wings, and I'll never forget that. Because he inspired leadership in all of us and the want to be better. And so that's really important that you not do that only for yourself, but also to the kids and the children that you have, right? Because it's important that they know they can do anything. And I know a lot of us always say that. Latinas, for example, I grew up in a Latina family, and for my parents, my mother, it was hard for her to see us in leadership roles. Because she would say, you know, she grew up where that wasn't always the visible, right? It wasn't always. Anybody Latinas? Oh, mijita, you should be married. You should have kids. You should be a mom. And you should stay at home and support your esposito. You should, right? And that in itself, I would say, Mommy, I can do it all. I can. Let me do that. I can be a leader. I can be a mother. And I know that you guys have challenges. And all of you, right? How many moms? How many in the room, right? So let's talk about that. How is it that we lead and be able to be successful in our careers as mothers? Because that's a balancing act, you know? So I know there's several of us, right? You want to take that one? Gretchen, there's mother of three and Des.
I have 4 boys, 35 to 21. I have no sisters, and I'll be 60 next year. And I was told that I couldn't do most of the things. I ride motorcycles, I fly, I play water polo, I do construction, I could go on. But if you think about that in the 60s, it was not something you do. And to piggyback on the question before is about when we get to a place about women have to be leaders at the lowest level to start, so we have a progress to go through middle management and all the way to the top. So leadership is not always at corporate America. Leadership starts from newbies. When you see a new agent, when you see a new vendor, take them under wing and talk to them. And the biggest problem is that when a child gets into 3rd grade, they're now looked at, oh, STEM is for someone else. Speaking up is to someone else. When I first started real estate, I was so fearful to talking in front of people, and now I love speaking in front of people, in front of thousands of people, because the value add that you can share the resources and who and what you are, but we have to be strong in making sure is how do we leverage being a mother and dealing with that, is my boys see me doing it. And the fact is that it saved their lives. It saved my husband's life when all else broke. The doctors came to me and said, how can you do this? So the idea is that having the strength internally as a woman is not only for your own book of business, but it's your own personal life. I had 2 people die in the same week. Well, a bank stole $550,000. We don't need to go there. But the point is, I'm still here today and so are they. And if it wasn't for me, they would both be dead. And I'm not trying to say I'm perfect, but the point is that I was able to catch the issues that the doctors didn't see. So that is the strength that we're talking about, that you can see them of color, Be them, show them, get them to go and say, we don't care, we're all there at the seat of the table to make sure you have a place.
Gretchen, I know.
I was going to go down to bear-based tactics
Yeah.
because I raised 3 kids in this business as well. As I said, as my story started, I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and I was going to sell part-time, and I fell in love with the business, and then that's where the mom guilts come in, right? And that's another way, right? It's the self-talk. It's society and the way of things are supposed to be some way. You should, right? And they still creep up, but you talk that voice out to it. And I remember, and I've passed this to a lot of young moms, you need to make sure that you're clear and specific with your kids and use language that means something to them. Because, this business when I was selling was when I had the kids. And I had 3, I look around the folks that have been with me for a long time. My oldest just turned 31. I have a 28-year-old and I have a 25-year-old. And I had 1 when I started, and I had 2 more babies while I was selling. And we came up with what was called a mommy promise. And those times where in the way of you get an appointment that you wanted so bad, and so you move everything, you all do it now. You move things around. And you need to do that, particularly when you're young and trying to build a business. But if we use the words mommy promise or whatever it may take, then it didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was a $4 million deal. It didn't matter whatever it was. That meant that was going to happen, whether it was just going out to eat, whether it was shopping, maybe it was a trip. And I had to then, a couple different times, I'd say, use the words, we'll see, or let's try. And they would start in with, well, and something would come up, right? And so I would have to go make the sale or go do it. And they'd start in on but you said we try, that whole guilty, lovely angel face. And, I would remind them, and I really did it through language in a lot of regards to get agreements on what we were looking to do. And so I said, yes, but remember, I said we try. It wasn't a mommy promise. And they then could kind of count on that and got a lot more on board with it. And there's a lot of you guys out here too know. For a while, part of how I was able to finance the company was I did my own investing. And I didn't have a whole bunch of money, but we would chase VA repos at the time. This is some years ago. And so I had the mommy mobile, the van, right, those, and I'd put all the kids in the car, and to get those, you had to drive a bunch of times. And they then just became part of the process. And I think that the language then helps, and the language with the kids or the family. I'd have a set date night that was firm, that you could not move it, didn't matter again. And so that you kept some schedule, and the people around you then knew. And then they start to buy in on it. And then you kind of throw in the fact that when you're at Disney World for a week, that this is because mommy making some bank. And so now all of a sudden they like, mommy, you making bank? Did you make a sale today, mommy? And it gets real quick onto it. So get words, get agreements with your family, and that stops a lot of the mommy guilt that's so loud sometimes.
I want to chime in because I love that about the mind promise. In our world, it's making golden moments, and it does happen. Our last name's Golden, so come up with your own. But for me, I am blessed. I have a daughter that's 10, and I have a son that's 7. My grace and my will. My grace of God, I had her at 38 and took a lot of willpower at 42 to have because I know y'all are looking at me going, she should have kids older. And then I had 2 amazing bonus children who are 18 and 25. And, to me, it's not about, like, the title at work was, and what I did, and I'm blessed, I manage over 175 agents and 3 offices, and I love my work. I'm passionate about helping agents. I'm passionate about making the dream of homeownership. When I had those children, of course, my why changed. And, then I got the cool title, Chief Mommy Organizer, and I like CFO. I'm Chick-fil-A orderer, and I'm executive Uber driver, and like this to me I can go on. I've got one for every title of my own little boardroom. It's that Think and Grow Rich. You got to have your own kind of silent counselors, and I got them. You know what I'm talking about? If you read that book, read it because it teaches you about desire and believing in yourself, and it's hard. I did, have tragedy happened in my life where I've been blessed to have the support of a spouse who was my right hand and my support. In 2015, he had a stroke and a heart attack. And then in 2017, my husband passed away, and I had a 6 and a 3-year-old. And I say that not for sympathy. I say that not to change how you look at me. I say that simply because that's when I realized that, you know, it doesn't matter what happens. You can do two things. You can break down or break through. You know, I was in a situation, I had no choice but to break through. And I was just blessed to surround myself by my village, my company, my leadership, Tracy, guys, Dan, and Tony, and the people in my church, the people in the neighborhood. So if you think you're at a place where you can't handle it, and place your family first always, Dan says that I gotta climb the ladder of success and take your family with you, and I'll throw in your health, because without your health, you have nothing at all. So that's, can't say I'm perfect, but you gotta have the right attitude and make those kids, make your family, make your sisters, make your loved ones, make the people in your life be there, as Jim Rohn says, and let them know you care. Because at the end of the day, that's our legacy.
That's beautiful. I mean, can we, you got it. Right? And you know, there's nothing, you know, just being a mom, that to me is the most, I always tell that's the most special thing that you can
I have long legs, sorry.
in my opinion. I've got 2 kids myself, and you know, now they have their own careers. And growing up, they would always say, Mom, we know you're busy. If you can make it to this, you know, we'd love for you to do it. And I'd always try to make it to the important events. And that's what's really significant. But one day my daughter and my son had to write who their role models were. And it was different times, right? And they both wrote their mom. And I just was in tears because I love that they, you know, to this day, right? That emotional. We all have role models, right? People that really inspire us, you know, that make it where we realize, why, without them I wouldn't have had, or I wouldn't be where I am. So I know each of you talked about that. Tell us who your role models were. Who inspired you, whether it be in the business, when you were a kid, whatever. Who's your inspiration and your role model?
My biggest inspiration for me is going to be my grandmother, who I recently lost. But so many things, from them moving from a small town in Louisiana to Houston, Texas, to create a better life and opportunity for themselves and their families, and not just stopping with themselves, but reaching a hand back and bringing other family and friends with them, giving them a place to stay, giving them jobs within their business that they started here. That's huge for me. For real estate wise, and I want to share this because if you know me, you know that I am so outside of the box. And it doesn't make sense sometimes, but it's the thing that I love most. Zhang Xin, who's a Chinese woman billionaire. She's in development. She is a huge influence for me, especially as I transition and start to do development. But I think what's so great about her is she's basically building up China. Like the most interesting buildings and businesses that you see, like these mega buildings, she's the brainchild, it's her brainchild. But she goes on to say 2 things that I really take to heart. One, she said while she was working at Goldman Sachs, that was her hardest job in Europe. And then the other thing is about fear, which the speaker talked about, she touched this morning. I think fear is a good thing. If you're not afraid of something, then you're not testing yourself enough. You're not going anywhere. If you're not afraid, then that means you're not moving forward. But she's huge for me. And then the last one is Melody Hobson. I have a few, but those 2 really critical. Melody actually is in financial, and she's based out of Chicago. And she is the first African-American female to be over the Chicago financial group there. But if you know her, you know that she was also instrumental in the acquisition and the sale of DreamWorks.
Wow.
So very big things. It's not the people that you normally see on TV and not the hoopla that they throw out, but very intriguing women that you want to know because they're doing it from the ground up.
Perfect. Anyone else?
Ruth Ryder, who is my paternal grandmother who passed. And she was born in 1901, you can imagine. And she was married young, like they did. And her husband, my grandfather, was involved in an accident early on, the first year of their marriage, and he lost half of his foot. And he was supposed to be the breadwinner, right, at that time, if you can imagine. It was 1920, and you know what's also in store with the Depression. And so she had to go to work. And she told me tales of, she was very good at English, and so they had different stenographers, that's how you say it, at the time. And so she was like a freelance stenographer. And the problem of that was, talk about women picking on women, what would happen is that she would go and be the stenographer at a business meeting, and typically they were held at a hotel. And if a young woman was going into a hotel with other men, so for a while then, and so she told me, she said it hurt so bad, and most of the little town that she was in knew that her husband was disabled and was not able to help, and there was still all this scandalous stuff, and she said, I had to do what I had to do. And she moved then next to, she was the first in the whole lumber industry, the first female salesperson. And she sold crates of lumber and got on however she sold it. She found out early on that that was never going to be fair in the pay. It was never going to be fair in the compensation or the commissions. She had, in the same regard, she was raising a family, and she found out one of her coworkers that she had outsold. She made sure that I knew that plenty, 10 times. He was paid more, and she found out, and she asked, and I said, well, he's in charge of the family. And she said, what am I? I'm in charge. I'm in a situation that I'm in charge of my family. It wasn't going to change. And where the part where I think brings home for me is, so she just resolved to that. That wasn't going to be a fight she could take on. And so she said, I'll just do more with what I have. And she started investing in the stock market. And she killed it in the stock market. And when she passed away 12 years ago, she had millions she was sitting on from the stock market, from being born in 1901, being completely prejudiced against, and just did it on her own. And my whole piece is that my message of anything today is that everyone, man and female in here, take care of your own. Let's make investments. There's going to be situations, there's going to be a storm that takes that mountain. Mm-hmm. But if we make the investments, whether it's real estate, wherever it's to be, we'll be at the table. You were fighting for a step. I'm going to bring my big old purse, and I'm going to take a big old chair.
I love
it. So for me, it's great. My father would say, no, it's not in the vocabulary for me. And so I did all the repairing of all the cars. I did all the construction. I did everything since I was 5, no exaggeration. Then it became when my world was coming apart 6 years ago, when my son was dying, my husband was dying. My son, who got acute leukemia and almost passed 3 times, he's the one that got me through it. And he was the savior that got through it. When we talk about family, I saved his life, but to this day I still have the mommy guilt that he says there was never a better mother in the world, and you saved my life, but you were not there for my soccer games.
Wow.
So moving on to now, the reason I formed the NDLC, which is what Teresa sits on, the Leadership Council, is to have a woman from every single trade be represented for the entire ecosystem. I met the woman, Rebecca Steele, who's responsible for the entire countrywide and Bank of America loans. So anyone who ever got a short sale or a loan mod, Rebecca Steele is the woman who put her job on the line, went in front of 30 men to say, this has to be done. And she's the one who ran the 1,500 tents around the country. So the millions of homeowners, you can thank that woman personally. But she was also a woman who got crucified in the news for being the complete fallout of the financial crisis, and now she's back. But the woman who I really like to bring to the table is, I call her Mother Teresa of AI, Dr. Chitadora. She's the woman who ran 5,000 records per day, visually looking at them, 35 years in AI, was the Chief Technology Officer of all of IBM Global Services, and she's the one who changed the dynamics and said, the banks need to lose billions to save hundreds of billions of dollars to change the narrative as we went through the crisis. I met her a couple years ago, and she came to me and she says, you're brilliant. You got 50 pedigrees. What? Hello, I don't even know. And she says, your vision and what you're doing is incredible. So now I'm her advisor for Amicus Brain, which is when we talk about health, reimagining dementia care, and Alzheimer's.
Very cool.
Global problem. So the idea is that when you talk about bringing your purse, not only am I an investor, I'm putting my money into it, I'm the advisor for it, because I believe we all have to work together, because if you don't have health, it doesn't matter. When 90% of all your family members take advantage of the elder financial abuse at $38.5 billion. So very serious stuff. So thank you.
Wow. Awesome. Wow. And I know, Deanne, you've got some people that have inspired you.
Just a little different. I'll talk about the local mentors, the mentors that are people that are just like me. They're in my world, they're in my ecosystem. They overcome challenges. I mean, there's so many people, that we place high up, and I think I have a slide up there that like has all kinds of isms and affirmations, and I'm always like trying to fill my head with motivational sayings from great people around me, and that's just a way to keep your mindset right. But when I can find that mentor that will believe in me and coach me and hold me accountable and sometimes give me that tough love, but believe in me more than I ever would have believed in myself. That's when I've seen tipping points in my career, and I can list a laundry list of them. When I was a collegiate athlete, I was a swimmer. My swim coaches are still, there. They're still cheering me on. I mentioned Tony McGowan. He's actually here today. She believed in me, and I mentioned Dan. Great guest. When you can find real people that have paid the dues, they have put the sweat equity in, they've been there, they understand it, and they can relate to what you're going through. I know that's always been kind of a wind beneath my wings. But I also want to say this, and I'll close on this. It's not always in the life lessons about the business, or how to be a better recruiter, or a manager, or a real estate agent. But when I think about these role models, and my mother being one too, they're the ones that have really taught me the life lessons, and taught me to put my values first, and taught me to focus on what really matters. And that to me, what a role model is, and a mentor, is someone that really cares about you. And so to me now, it's just like, again, I gotta pass it on. Tony says, you gotta raise the elevator back up, because somebody raised you up, and we always gotta keep rising. But when you get to that place, find somebody else and help rise them.
I love it, and that's so true, right? One of the things that we have learned, and we have such great programs and coaches and mentorships, and I think it's real important, and I want to make sure that you guys know how powerful. We got some information about all these women, about what they do and their power, and we've got all this information that will be available to you, because some of them get the PowerPoint presentation that I had put down with all the information that you need to know about what's their favorite books, podcasts, things you can learn from them. So we have that as a leave behind. Coaching, mentorship. Tell me, look at Tiffany, never give up, right? Look at this stuff. Who are some, I know Deanne, you coach, you're a mentor. Have you used anybody in the group, tell us, pipe in. Do you have mentors? Do you have coaches that you work with?
So I do have people that are mentors. I think that you definitely want a mentor. You want people that you can, even if they're not officially your mentor, you want people that you can look up to, that you can ask questions of, that are good role models to lead a path to where you're going. I do want to share with you one thing that I do give people, and I do this with a lot of real estate agents and other realtors and self-employed people. You have to give yourself freedom as far as, in order for you to do what you're going to do. I do mentor people as far as in terms of financial stability, because my income personally is diversified right now in 5 different ways, and we're working towards 7. But I have long-term and disability and short-term disability for self-employed. So if I'm in a car wreck, or if I get cancer or something, God forbid, I'm going to be taken care of, and that income's going to come in even though I'm self-employed. So I do coach self-employed people on that. I don't get paid for it. It's something that I feel like I'm paying forward, because I know a lot of people, you are the breadwinners, or if you cannot provide, then your second income in your household may go down. So I do coach people on that, and basically it's just giving them information of lessons that I've learned.
I love it. And Deanne, I know you, again, also coach. Are there any particular programs that you like, or?
You know, whether it's a self-designed program, I mean, all the great speakers that we bring to all these conventions, many of them have great coaching programs, whether it's, Breakthrough by Design or Peak Producers or the new Mastery by Buffini, or, I mean, I could go on the list of all of them. And I would just tell you that this is when you go to coach and train others, I always say, training transfers knowledge, but coaching is what transforms the person. And when I started coaching, I realized that really what was happening was I was coaching myself, because you couldn't just, practice what you preach, you gotta do it. If you're gonna say do it, I gotta do what I'm telling them to do. And so that whole accountability, I am personally coached today. I do have an executive coach, and it's been wonderful, because I needed that piece in my life, but I found that it's now helped me again pay it forward. Things I learned, now I pass on. So I can't say enough about the power of coaching.
Gretchen, Desiree, do you guys have a coach, or do you mentor, or what do you think?
Some of all the above. I think that the mentoring is much more informal for me. I've had formal mentoring, and for me it seems we're going to do something, so I'm not meaning to put this down, and sometimes seems forced, right? And so, I would say that the mentoring is a moment by moment mentoring, and that it needs to be present for that person. And for just as I've already, preached at y'all, we need to stop doing what we've done to each other and be present in a way and catch ourselves. It's not all our fault. It's not. I mean, it's the way that the media, we were brought up, everything to it. And so each one in the moment could be the mentor, just even in the way of that moment when someone needs a hand or the compliment and sincere to it. The mentoring for me kind of goes both ways. I have such respect for, in the business side, such respect for all the people I'm working with. I just glean, and we modify and go when I hear stuff, and whether it's for me or someone else. I have someone in the room, in the back of the room, who's my Drysdale's in here has been very important to me in the company, but Anish, she works for me, and so you look on paper like, I'm supposed to be her mentor, and it goes the other way.
Oh, wow. I love that.
It's the way that it goes. So.
So I do mentor, and I also advise, so as far as the coaching side. But as far as one of the things that's incredible that since we formed the council years ago and dealing in the executive space is that there is a complete breakdown when we did the She Centerfolds for the last 8 years in our magazines, that we're allowing women to completely open their hearts. And when you're able to get to the core of these women and really feel them, you're actually having a session at that moment. To things that I know about women at the highest level through the worst tragedies they've gone through that have shaped our industry and have shaped the government space and what's going down, it's overwhelming. I mean, I never dreamed of being a journalist, and now we trademarked technology, human balance, and trademarked knowing the rules of the game. And to know the rules of the game means that everyone in this room can succeed. Man, female, it doesn't matter. We call it the robot factor, the it factor, to making sure that you know the rules, you can succeed and not be, discriminatory, not take people down, and not be, self-sufficient of, if I'm going to do it for me and not for you, and I'm going to steal it. We have to lever the resources, and that's one of the things that I know that. Teresa bought to raffle off today for you in the room today is to have the information so you can leverage it to your benefit to have you be sustainable. You're talking about having 7 resources of income. Income changes go. People ebb and flows. Things happen. Physically, financially, emotionally, life changes. So when you have that opportunity to bounce things off of people and be open and honest. Your doctor can't take care of you unless you tell them everything. And you have to be your self-doctor before a doctor can truly help you to the level. And that's what saved my husband and my son at the time. So this is about life.
Well, and Desiree, you brought it in. I do want to mention two things which I think are really important, and thank you for that. You know, one of the things that we've done on the net, one thing, everyone knows Gino, right? You got to see his, well, he's big about the 40X, right? And the book, you'll see that all of these speakers have their preferred books, and that comes up, almost all of them have that book on there. So how many have seen the 40X, the book, 4 Disciplines, okay, of execution? Well, it's all about accountability too in there. And I think it'd be nice if you exchange, okay, cards with somebody that's next to you and say, look, let's be accountable partners, accountability partners, and every Monday and every Friday, we're going to connect with each other. And this is something you have to actually do, and you put it on your calendar, and you don't waver from it, right? And you say, this year I want to make this much money. Here's how I'm going to do it. And every Friday, I'm going to tell you what went, and keep the, you know, that's where you can get the whirlwind in there, things that didn't maybe go your way, you can discuss. But on Monday, you're going to talk about your commitments, what you're actually going to do that week, how many new people you're going to meet, how many conversations you're going to have, how many listing appointments you're going to make, how many you're actually going to go to, and how many closings that you're going to have, and then you can celebrate that. And by the end of the year, you will have that celebration. Can we get that from everyone, right? Because it's amazing. Start off with the interview questions. The interview questions, Gino talked about this morning. Those are the best questions I have ever approached, because you get to really know people and how their lives matter and things that happen to them. Now, Desiree kind of gave you a little bit of a preview. These phenomenal women have offered to have 2 sessions with you to coach, okay? And so I want to make sure if you are interested in this, right, put your card in here, pass this all the way around. We're going to draw who gets to be coached. Has anybody, would y'all like that? Yeah. Please, I want to hear it. Yeah, let's do that, right?
That's right.
We also will have a raffle of these wonderful women in the housing ecosystem. We have a raffle of this report that Desiree puts together every year, right?
Yes.
And it's got great information that you won't want to miss out on what's happening, data, all just kind of wonderful things. And each of our panels will receive this as well. And also in the back, I brought some, you know, something to remind you of the phenomenal women that lead our country. And there's little book, has anybody seen little bookmarks back there? So you got Mother Teresa, you've got all these, Michelle Obama. Take a bookmark. Remember how powerful these women are, because you've got to have somebody that motivates you every day, right? And I love it. Mother Teresa for me, hey, I'm Teresa, so I love, you know, she's a motivator for me. So make sure you take one of those. Also, there's a lot of people in this room I definitely want to recognize. I know there's Women of Council Realtors president. I know Monica here. Please stand up if you are a Women of Council Realtor, because there you go. We've got Monica Nash right here, and she is very committed to the community. It's very important that we all recognize that. We also have a former First Lady, Governor, right here, who is also, come on, please, very important. She's from Idaho, right? We have some major